Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Right, we're here now. So what can I do for you?
So I just wanted, so I've got a college project where I've got to network with professionals like yourself, and I just have a few questions for you that I'd like you to answer. And I know you're quite busy, so I'd like to make it as quick as possible. I've got them written down on a piece of paper. So should I just get into the questions?
Just fire away. So you're a full-time student at college, are you?
Yeah, yes, I am. I do film and TV at Trafford College.
And how's it going so far?
Yeah, it's really good. In my first year, I got a distinction, which is, I think, the highest grade that you can get. And in the second year, you're asked to reach out to professionals. You're asked to make work for clients, stuff like that. And so here I am.
Oh, good for you. So what projects have you done? Have you done any filming so far?
Yeah, I've made a horror film, I made a music video, and I made a documentary.
Oh, wow.
I did all that in my first year. I've also got a website that I've made. I'll send you the link if you want.
Yeah, of course, yeah, send it, yeah.
And I've uploaded all of that. I made like a portfolio on it, just like you have on your website.
Okay, brilliant, sounds good.
Yeah.
So what's your favourite thing so far?
My favourite part of filmmaking is probably documentary filmmaking.
Oh, really?
That's
Okay.
how I found you.
Yeah, oh, I see, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what kind of documentaries do you like to make? Do you like to make reality, or what do you like to do? Biopics, or what is it?
We haven't actually delved that much. The next course subject, the next term, we're actually going to be focusing on documentary altogether. But so in the first year, we got told make a film and make a music video, and then for a final project, we got the opportunity to make a documentary, a music video, a final project. He said that it would be a bit more lenient if you made a documentary because obviously he hadn't been actually teaching it. But the first thing that got me into filmmaking was actually documentary. And so I was like, you know, I'll give it a go. And I did an interview on my dad, who's actually a therapist, and his journey from struggling with mental health as a young teenager to then growing up and being a therapist, and how what impacted his life has now changed into how he's impacting others.
That's interesting, okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, fire away. Let me have your questions and let's see where it goes.
All right. First question I've got for you is, what actually got you involved in the filmmaking industry? What was like your light bulb moment? Like, yes, this is what I want to do. I know that this is the route I'd like to take for my career.
Well, first of all, I'm a writer. So I've been writing for a long time. I'm an author. I've got books and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So the reason I got into filmmaking was that I wanted to use film as a medium to tell the story.
Okay.
So really, I've always been interested in film, but I've never really made a lot of film. And it's only the past few years I decided to kind of step into the film world and go full on, you know, with a crew and everything else and so on and so forth. So it was really, I suppose it was twofold. It was a modern application of storytelling. So putting the story into film. But at the same time, it was a very old-fashioned way of telling a story also in a film.
Yeah.
Because obviously, you know, you can go back to silent movies, of course.
Yeah.
So filmmaking's always been in my mind. But I've never really had the kind of ideal opportunity to kind of put it into practice. And the lockdowns were the first time I thought, okay, I've got time to kill, I'm going to make a film.
Yeah.
So that was when, although I'd made lots of smaller bits and pieces of film, that was the first time I made a film, which was the first one was a documentary in Glasgow.
Right.
So was it a career move? Not really. It was just I wanted to explore another side of my creative personality to see if I could just put it onto film, and that's how it happened.
So you like writing your stories, so you're a writer, and you decided, you know what, I'm going to put that into give it a modern swingle and put it to film.
Well, yes and no, because I always wanted to do films. Okay. So I write a lot of journals and a lot of notes, and I found some notes from 2008. Okay. And on one page it said, I must make a film. So that was quite a long time ago now. So it's something I've always wanted to do. But I like to see how things go. I'm not a very planned person. I like to see how it goes, see what happens, see how it develops and evolves and so on. And it kind of eventually led into making films.
Right, nice. So when you got the opportunity, you were like, let me take this opportunity and go to filmmaking.
Well, it's twofold. It's when I get the opportunity, but you have to create opportunity.
Yes, definitely.
So I started the conversation about filmmaking with my clients years earlier. And during lockdown, somebody just coincidentally emailed me and said, Alan, I keep reading you making films. Are you making films? And I just said, yes, I'm making films. But I hadn't made a film at that point. So I got the commission to go make a film about a pharmacy in Glasgow. Very, very well-known pharmacist, this woman, and her family are actually pharmacists. And she said, can you take this story and put it into film? And that's exactly what happened. So I got a crew together, drove up to Glasgow, and we made a small, I think it's about, I can't remember, about 30-minute documentary. And that was actually the first full film that I'd made.
Wow. So you'd already delved in on your own personal work. You'd made personal films in your own, for like a hobby?
No.
Beforehand?
No. Yeah, bits and pieces. But, so...
This was your first actual project?
First actual film...
Got a crew together?
First actual film project, yeah. First one, yeah.
So was that after lockdown?
No, that was during lockdown.
That was during lockdown?
Yeah. We went up with all masked up and so on and so forth, you know. Yeah. But so that was the first film, yeah. So I just decided to kind of say yes, we can do it, because I know everything's possible. If you have, obviously, I had to bring in film people, film crew. You know, I had to bring in a DOP, sound guy, lighting guy, etc., etc., and a producer who had some experience also. But I knew that because I'm a writer, I'd be a good director. I have a strong vision for things. So I knew I'd be able to direct it, absolutely no problem. There's no fear with it. But I'd never made one before, no, but I took the commission on. I thought, yeah, it'd be cool.
So you embraced the opportunity?
Well, remember, the opportunity was created because I'd started the conversation about making films to people I knew. So the opportunity, the seeds of the opportunity had been laid. And then the second opportunity arose, which was a client said to me, can you make as a film? Because I keep reading about you making films. So it was a double kind of two-sworded opportunity.
Wow. Very good. Right. So we get to the second question. The second question is, obviously, did you go uni? Did you go university?
No, I left school at 15 and I didn't. I never took any exams.
So would you recommend someone like me who's a student at college, to apply and go to uni to study film?
Yes and no. First of all, the great thing about university and so on is you kind of learn everything.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing.
No, of course not.
Because learning stuff is what keeps the brain alive and active and growing.
Yeah.
And just because you've learned it, it doesn't mean you have to do it.
No, of course not.
But you now have a toolbox in your head of information that you can use when you're doing a film. So for example, you can say, no, if we want to create that shot, we need this lens, we need this camera, we need this piece of kit, and we understand the technicalities of lighting, etc., etc., etc. So my second answer to that is, I would say no. If you want to get into filmmaking, pick up a camera and press record.
Right.
That's the best way to learn filmmaking, because the problem with university and college is you learn everything within parameters or within boxes.
Yeah.
And usually you'll be told, well, you won't be told, but you'll be advised not to stand outside the parameter.
No, yeah.
But the kind of filmmaking I do, I like to break as many rules as possible. And I'm only breaking the rules because I'm not aware of the rules. And I'm not aware of the rules because I didn't go to university and study filmmaking. So it gives me a much freer mind to explore different areas of filming. So for example, you can get a documentary maker who is a very fixed documentary maker, and I'll be making a documentary, and I've had guys say this to me, saying, no, you can't do it that way. That's not how you make a documentary.
Right.
But I want to do it that way.
Yeah.
Which may be more of a Ridley Scott direction, or Alfred Hitchcock type of direction, and so forth. So the problem is with universities, it does restrict the thinking a little bit. But at the same time, if you can pick up your camera, go out and start filming something, and because obviously a lot of it takes place on the edit. Yeah. If you can film all those link-up shoots, scenes, and so on and so forth, and put them all together, you can learn a lot. You can learn. So here's what you can learn. You can learn that we used the wrong camera, we brought the wrong sound stuff, we brought the wrong tripods, we didn't need all those lights, and we had a terrible cameraman. So you've learnt more in a shoot than you will ever learn at university.
Yeah.
So next time you go, okay, next time we're going to rent a Red. We will have this, I'm going to interview at least 5 cameramen and see who's going to be the best for the job, and so on and so on and so on. So you can learn a lot on a shoot. So for me, it's the University of Life is a stronger university than the University of Diplomas and Academia, because you can learn a lot faster. So although you're at university, I would encourage you to go to university, of course, but I would encourage you to start making films.
Okay, yeah.
So spend your time making films. Find a story that your father has never told you, and build the story of that into a film. So your dad will know stories that he's never spoken about. I mean, my father's 85 and he still tells me stories I've never heard. And make a film of it.
Right.
So pick up a camera and press the button. That's the best way to learn.
Yeah. So you think the best way to learn is not going to necessarily university, but to actually just go out there and experience everything firsthand.
Yes.
And get as much practical, practical filming done and learn from those experiences.
Of course. So you get somebody like, say George Lucas. George Lucas, he went to, California University or wherever it was. And, but one of his very first jobs was he was sent as an intern to go and watch this new director that everybody hated called Francis Ford Coppola.
Right.
And Francis Ford Coppola was making a film called Finian's Wake.
Okay.
With some really famous actors actually, but the film was a bit of a cock-up, according to Coppola. But George Lucas learnt by standing there, watching Ford Coppola.
Yeah.
That's how we learnt initially. And Coppola said to him, go make a film. That's how you learn, just go make a film. And some of our best filmmakers didn't study anything. They had a good eye and a good mind, and they went and made the film.
Right. So do you not think uni provides you with all the stepping stones to... Because in university you do make films. You do learn how to build props. You do know how to what lens to use for what type of shot you want to do. Do you think that restricts your creative ability because it limits you to using what you have?
Yeah, yes and no, because it depends what kind of film. So if you want to be a director or a producer or a sound expert or a colorist or whatever, if you're going to make a film, you sometimes only have to be one of them, or you have to be all of them.
Yeah.
So if you want to be a director, you need to know about camera angles and so on, but you don't need to know at the same time. You just need to say to a guy, look, I've got this picture here, I've scribbled this down, I want it to turn out a little bit like that. I want the camera to come from here, I want it wide angle, and I want to capture, the 1 2/3 scenario where I want him here, but I want to go into his face, and so on and so on and so forth. So it depends if you're just a producer. I mean, a producer really has to be a jack of all trades, right? Yeah. So a producer has to say, okay, we'll get the actors, we'll get the costumes, we'll do this, we'll do that. But the producer hires a costume designer.
Yes.
A producer hires somebody to do the interviews, to find these actors. So a producer needs a very broad spectrum of skills. Where a director, a scriptwriter, a screenwriter, a filmmaker, they have a broad spectrum of skills, but you heavily rely on people with those skills and you bring them in. So I'm not saying don't go to university. What I would say to anyone young is make a film. And it's either going to be crap, or it's going to be brilliant, or it's going to be okay. But what you can learn from making that film is going to be far greater than anything you'll ever learn in university. But university is brilliant at the same time, because remember, at university you'll also meet people like yourself.
Yeah, a lot of connections.
Yeah, so you get a lot of really nerdy people who want to make films.
Yeah.
So the conversation that we're having now, you probably couldn't have with a lot of other people that you know.
No.
Because they're not into it.
Yeah.
They're like, what the hell's he going on about? Right? So at least at university you have connections where you can meet people, you can talk to people, you can either share visions or you can dismiss visions at the same time, but you can have a good conversation with people who are making films or into filmmaking.
Okay. Yeah. Also, in uni, they introduce you to industry professionals.
Yeah.
So people that are, already in the industry working there. That might be the tutors, that might be guest speakers, that might be companies that they're associated with. Do you see that as an advantage for a upcoming filmmaker?
Yeah, of course it is, because there's a couple of things you can do. You can pick their brain.
Yeah.
So you can meet the guy who, I don't know, you can meet some famous filmmaker or some relatively famous filmmaker and say, how did you do that? So he would normally charge thousands of pounds for that information. So you can access these people. And of course they can inspire you as well. So you can think, oh my God, I met Ridley Scott. It was amazing. I didn't know he started at the BBC on the news. He was working in the background. It was like, oh God, it was amazing. So if he started like that, anything's possible. So, there's lots of good sides to doing university, that's for sure.
Okay.
I mean, I would want my son and daughter to go to university, but I would want them to know that it's not everything.
No, of course not.
You have
the whole world out there.
So if my son wanted to make a film, I would say, well, go make a film.
Yeah.
Show me what you've got and make a film.
Get stuck in. Yeah. All right. That kind of astonishes me because everyone else I've spoken to is like, oh, filmmaking, the best place to learn is uni. Get a different perspective from you is actually like quite eye-opening to see that, it's not the only way to just get into it. But it would definitely be an advantage. Do you see it as an advantage or do you see it as a disadvantage?
It depends what kind of. It depends what. Look, ultimately, life is about what kind of character you are.
Yes, definitely.
So my whole life. I mean, you're 17, right?
Yeah.
So you're an empty vessel waiting to be filled and explore life. I'm 59, so I've been through a lot of things and transformations and done lots of things. So I kind of know my character. I'm very nonconformist, very rebellious. I don't like rules. I like to just do things.
Yeah.
But your character, you may be very structured, and I spoke to Jacob yesterday. He may be very structured. You are all different people.
Yeah.
So you have to learn to discover yourself. And so say you learned something at university, making a film.
Okay.
And you're going through the process, and it feels in here and in here like you're walking through mud. You just can't move forward. Okay, that's your intuitive side saying to you, this way doesn't work for me. I have to find a different way.
Okay.
So you have to find your own way.
You have to follow your heart.
Yeah, you have to. Well, the problem with the heart is the heart can be treacherous at times also.
Yeah.
And it can lead you down a delusional path.
Yeah.
But it can also lead you down a wonderful path.
Yeah.
So the heart can be a little bit treacherous. But you have to use the heart and the mind, because the mind is the seat of reason. So so the reason in the mind can say, well, I learnt this at university, but is it the best way for me? And is it the only way?
Right. Because that's something that they don't.
They wouldn't teach.
Just structure everything and don't let you be your own creator.
Well, you've got to remember what they're doing is that they're giving you an amazing foundation to build on. But what you have to remember is they haven't given you the house. They've given you the foundation.
Yeah.
You have to use that foundation to build on. And you may want to create a bungalow. You may want to create a 3-story house. You may want to create something amazing through using your own creative powers. So it's entirely up to you. So never dismiss university, but never dismiss non-conformist creatives who never went to university either. You have to find your way.
You have to find your way, yeah, definitely. All right. Should we move on to the third question?
Fire away.
Okay, so now that you're in this industry, that you're a documentary filmmaker, do you reach out to your clients or do your clients reach out to you?
Well, at the moment, the first few years, I learned a ton of stuff and lots of background stuff that the public don't see. Right. So, for instance, if you have a film idea, for example, it may cost £1 million to do the film. So who's going to pay for it? So to create a funding project, you have to have lots of things in place. So that includes the script, the screenplay, actors, a whole film setup really. And of course you have to create you don't have to create because you can do it with an idea, but you have to create a mini film. So for instance, I'm just finishing a film called Geriatrica, and creating the funding is quite a big project in itself. It takes a lot of time.
Right.
So we had to film some stuff, put the stuff together, edit the stuff, make it look good, make it sound good, make it be an exciting part of the film, and of course have the story set out in a way that funders are going to say, oh my God, this film has to be made. So right now, I forgot the question now.
It was, do you contact your clients?
Oh yeah, I see. Yeah.
Your clients contact you?
Well, there's a couple of different answers to the same question. So, so if you're doing fundraising, you're reaching out to people and saying, we need funding for this project. It's going to be unbelievable. Will you pay for it? But with documentaries, clients reach out to me. So we have a documentary at the moment, which is it's a documentary stroke film. So it's like it's a true to life biopic.
Okay.
And it's a music documentary that goes back to punk rock. It travels through Manchester music scene, leads up to today. So they reached out to me. They just said, Alan, we love the curator. Will you make this film for us?
Okay.
So people will reach out to me also. Just had another guy recently reach out about a film. So people reach out to me generally. But if I'm doing something different, or what I would say one of my own projects, I have to reach out to people because I need the film to be funded. I'm not gonna spend the money on it. So it's twofold. Look, you have to do great projects, and people eventually, hopefully, see those great projects and say, "We loved what you did." Like I get lots of comments on the curator. People say, "We loved how you did the curator. Will you make our film? Will you make our documentary?" So if you do great stuff, but you make sure you're pushing it into the world, to be seen by the right people, they will come to you as well.
So you think that you should make work and then you should push it out so much so that clients and other people that might work doing. So you kind of reinvest in your own work to get more work. Is that what you're trying to say?
You have to do that. Yeah, you have to do that. Yeah, you have to.
You prove your worth. Prove what you are capable of doing.
You have to do. Yeah, do something amazing. Just do something amazing. Say, this is what I do. This is it.
Show it to the world.
Show it. Yeah.
So, did you always want to be a writer, or was that something that once you left school you were like, maybe this is what I'm interested in, and slowly got into it, or has it always been your hobby?
Life is accidental, but it also has some kind of destiny aspect to it as well.
Right.
So life is accidental, but nothing's really accidental. So my life has always been a case of, okay, I'm going to do that. I've never thought to myself, I'm this or I'm that. But I've always been creative, but it's almost been accidental. But when you trace the steps back, you can see that, you know, what I was doing was leading me to this point anyway. So if somebody said, are you surprised you're making films? I would say, no, not really. If I look back on time, the films were always coming. But I didn't know when or where. And the same with the writing was always coming. I mean, actually, I started writing, sounds a long time, it was going to sound a long time ago to you. I started writing around 1977. So probably, actually, that was, no, 1978, because I formed a punk band.
Right.
And I wrote the lyrics for the band. So I was a songwriter. So really, when I look back at my life, I got my first book published in 2012. People say, oh, you're a new writer. I would say probably, yes, I am a new writer. But when I look back at my life, I look back on all the writing I did through all those years. I did a lot of writing, really, especially poetry. Yeah. Wrote lots of stuff. And so it wasn't I was thinking I'm going to be a writer. I always was a writer, I just didn't know it.
Right.
I hadn't awoken to the fact that I'm a writer.
So you hadn't unleashed your potential. You were like, this is coming, I know it's coming.
I didn't know it was.
Embrace it.
No, I didn't know it was coming, but I always embraced it.
Did know it was coming.
I always embrace the opportunity when it arrives. But I'm saying when you look back on life, you realise that, oh, actually, I've been doing that stuff for a long, long time.
Right.
So
I haven't had that experience yet. I'm not old enough.
No, you're too young. You're far too young. Yeah, you're too. Yeah. But maybe your father has, or your grandfather has. You know.
Yeah. They'll always be going on about my father and my grandmother always going on about, oh, these are my regrets and these are my achievements that I did, this, that, the other. It's like when you ask them what their life was like, they were like, oh, I didn't know this was coming, I didn't know this was coming, I didn't know this was coming. So it kind of like leads into what you're saying.
It does, yes. Yeah, it does.
Yeah. I definitely believe that when you're young, you're unable to actually take a well-educated guess if something is right for you because you haven't had enough experience. Mm-hmm. I think that's where most young people fall short.
Yeah.
And so getting advice from people like you is what aids us.
Yeah.
Because now I have it, like, for example, you just explained how you think university isn't as helpful as picking up a camera and going out and shooting, which is a different perspective, which I wouldn't have had because college will always tell me, go to university.
Of course, yeah. You've got to remember that, I mean, there's a light side and a dark side to everything, even university. Yeah. And the dark side to university is run as a business.
Okay, yeah.
So
they're there for your $9,500 every year.
Yeah, they need people to go through to make money. It's really that simple.
Yeah, that is how it works.
But at the same time, you know, there's a lot of great people come from universities. A lot of great people.
Okay, so we've talked about the university route. There's also other ways of doing it. For example, not going to university and just either taking a gap year, picking up a camera and recording, making a portfolio, reaching out to people, getting clients to contact you. There's also apprenticeships where you can go out, work for someone as a runner, get experience on a set. They pay you, but they also teach you how to do it. Do you think that is a better way of approaching and higher educational way of learning instead of going to university? Yeah,
in a nutshell. Because
it's
but it depends on what kind. It will depend on what kind of character you are. Again, some people just want the academia.
Yeah.
But some people they want what academia offers, which is the knowledge, but they don't want to go to university.
No.
So an apprenticeship is a perfect way, as long as you have an amazing teacher. You know, as long as you have an amazing mentor and teacher working with you, making that happen. You know, and teaching you the stuff. This is how you do it. I mean, if you're the kind of apprentice that just taught to make tea and coffee all day, well, you're screwed.
No, of course. That's useless.
It's useless, yeah. But if you have a really great teacher on an apprenticeship. It's probably the best way. Remember, every great industry originally was built on apprenticeships. It wasn't built on academia.
No.
So apprenticeship is kind of almost dismissed as a way for the uneducated person to learn.
Right.
And actually, that's not true. So you can't dismiss apprenticeships. So listen, just a warning, I've got around 5 minutes left.
Right, okay, so we just move on to the last question?
Yeah, sure, fire away.
Quickly. It's just one piece of advice that you would give an up-and-coming filmmaker.
Well, an up-and-coming filmmaker, so when you make a film, it begins with an idea.
Yes.
So how do you get an idea? It's either something you've seen on the street, something you've seen outside. You have to be a good observer of life.
Yeah.
So for instance, taking my son to nursery in the morning, we always drive past someone who's been sleeping on the street for quite a long time now.
Right.
And I had an idea about what I kept seeing every morning. What would happen if? So it's a bit like the vaccines that have been taking place all over the planet.
Yeah.
So my new film it's a what if story. So what if this happened with these vaccines? So a good storyteller has to be a what if person.
Yeah.
Because that is what brings the story to life.
That's what brings the ideas together.
Yeah, it's the seed that will develop into much bigger and greater things.
Yeah.
And it can go that way, go that way, go that way, and go that way.
Yeah.
And of course you have to then see that story as a film. So there's a brilliant film called Buried. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't, unfortunately.
Right. It's over an hour long of a guy who's kidnapped in Iraq.
Right.
I can't remember if he's a soldier or a worker in Iraq. And he's buried in a box.
Oh, all right.
So the whole film is him in his box. So here's what you think, right? How do I make 90-minute film of a guy in a box?
Interesting. Yeah.
And you are you're terrified watching it. But I tell you what, it's a brilliant film. So there's an idea, right? One man in a box, he has a phone that is dying, and he's thinking, oh my God, I've only got this amount of time left, my phone's gonna die. But he's buried underground and the soil's coming through. Or have you seen a film called Moon?
Moon. No, I don't think I have.
Right, so Moon is a brilliant sci-fi film, but there's one person in this film.
Only one?
So how do you make a film with one guy, so suspenseful, so brilliant, that when it finishes, you didn't want it to finish? Well, there's two examples. So really, the one bit of advice I would give you is, as an early filmmaker, you can't do what Ridley Scott does and ask for £500 million to build a set.
No.
So you've got to say, how can I turn my bedroom into a set with clever...
something amazing.
Yeah, without all the mess and everything else that bedrooms always have. And focusing. So what it means is you're going to have the bedroom very dark. You're going to have all the focus on your pal's face or your two mates' faces. You can't really show the body or anything, but you've got to make it amazing. So really, it's how do I unleash my creative talent at this early stage and make it amazing? So that's a bit of advice I'm going to give you what I said at the beginning, which is, well, it's the second part. Have an idea, but the second part, pick up the camera and press play.
Pick up the camera.
Press record, sorry.
Press record.
But remember, if you're going to do a scene in your bedroom, how do you make it? So you've got your set knowledge from university. You've got your lighting knowledge from university. You've got your camera angle, camera type, camera lenses, blah, 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 from university. You've done a bit of directing. You've done a bit of producing. You've done a bit of acting, possibly. How can I do this in my bedroom?
Going to implement all those skills. Your creative ideas.
So do you have a camera? Do you have a camera?
Yeah, I actually do. I have a mirrorless camera.
Brilliant.
I got a Sony A6400.
Right. So Sony is what we use on everything.
Right.
So Sony, why do we use Sony? Because they have the best lenses. The cameras are brilliant. So even with the cheapest of Sony, you can make an amazing film. I've never used a Sony smartphone, but I bet you their cameras are cool.
Yeah, they are.
But I bet their cameras are very, very good.
I think they're the best smartphone cameras you can buy, actually.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, because their lenses are amazing. So, so that's the bit of advice I can give you is, go to university, learn everything you can, but remember, I am my own person. I've got to unleash my own creative genius and make this film stuff work for me. What works for me? That intuitive side. And then that way, hopefully you become a brilliant filmmaker.
All right. Thank you.
My pleasure. And so anything, send me your website and I'll have a look at it, of course. I'd love to see your little films as well, so make sure you're on the website.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Conversation.
Okay. We'll speak again.
Speak to you soon.
Thank you. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.